I'm Dr. Christina Chester, and welcome again to our MCPS video series, Waymaking. Our goal is to help families make their way through many of the emotional challenges we are faced with today. I have with me today Dr. Patricia Kapunan, School System Medical Officer. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Chester. It's a pleasure.
All right, so for my first question, what is the role of a school system medical officer, and why is this the time to have a pediatrician on staff to support the system?
Great question. The school system medical officer position is new in this district. I think the important thing is for someone to help the school community, both leaders, students, and their families, think about that intersection between health and the purpose that, we build the schools community and have a school system. So health intersects education and our ability and readiness to be in our spaces in so many different ways. And that has become so obvious, right? Like the importance of that connection has been really revealed in the past couple of years that we've been dealing with COVID and all the different pandemic stressors that we have experienced collectively. So I think it's a really good time to be intentional about how we think about that relationship as a community, and have someone like me, available to school and community leaders to help process some of that and make the way we do things better.
No, good. And so, and I think about your response and, that need for having somebody, an expert that is with us in the schools to help us with many of these concerns that our families, our students, our community have, especially after with the pandemic. And so as an expert in supporting physical health, in the medical field, can you share with our audience the importance of physical and mental health, and how are these two concepts aligned?
Right. Well, we all walk around with both our bodies and our minds. You have a job as a mental health professional. I, as a pediatrician, work, people think in a physical space, but people are like the comprehensive summary of their bodies, and their bodies and their minds and their souls, and they sort of experience life in this very integrated way, not just as whole people, but as members of communities. So I think the mind-body connection that we're talking about is actually the truth of how people experience. So it's really important to understand that these things are inexorably linked. So, in the school community, we've recognized for a long time that something like a good night's sleep or having, a good breakfast really impacts the way that you learn and can engage with your academic environment. In the medical community, we're starting to really understand how even childhood experiences, especially emotionally charged ones, can really shape the way that you interact with your environment and your health outcomes even later in life. So this mind-body connection, it really speaks to how those things are very, very linked in the way people actually live and experience, and you need to respect that when you are, trying to help people. And we also need to respect individual differences in that connection between how people process their thinking and emotions and their physical health conditions and how they move through their life as a whole person. So, one great example of this is, neurodivergent people who have just unique ways in which these two ways are linked. So being respectful of these individual differences, informs the way that we support people, meeting them where they're at, respecting individual differences and needs, and help us understand sort of what has been the impact, especially as we process pandemic stressors and everything that has happened in our communities beyond that in the past couple of years, how people might need to be supported in specific ways.
Oh, good. And that kind of ties into my next point. So then, as we talk about, why is it important to discuss the needs of student mental health, but especially when we talk about the needs that we have around staff mental health as well?
Yeah, great question. I'm a pediatrician. I mentioned that before. We start with you at the very beginning. So, we focus a lot on not just prevention, but the fact that the health of children is really closely related to the people who help take care of them and their communities. That's actually not just true for children, but true for all people who exist as members of families and communities. So prevention and the idea that it takes a village to support a person means that it is absolutely critical, not just to look at student health, but the health of everybody who makes our school community possible, that their health is just as important in determining the shared outcomes and values that we have as a community.
Okay, and my last question is, so do you have any suggestions or feedback for families and students to help them to stay resilient during this time?
Oh, this is the question that I was most nervous about. And we had, talked about, so what is it that you do to relax? And I had to really study my soul. So one of the things I'm a little embarrassed to say I like to do is gardening. That's not something that's so exciting, but I encourage everybody to try it. It is like so high yield, and every science teacher knows this, just like the pleasure of having like a little tiny seed and like in a couple of weeks, wow, this has actually turned into something. And if it turns into a huge, large plant, it's like really great. But if it doesn't, you just start again. And that's happened to me a bunch of times where like, my dog has dug into a big thing of seedlings. I'm like, crushed for a day. And then the next day I just start over and it's all better. So like gardening and plants, I think they just like being connected and being able to like feel that you did something and contributed to your tiny plant's well-being is just so high yield for me emotionally. And I also, having failed a lot of times in gardening, uh, I feel like there's a lot of space for grace when you mess up or forgot to water or overwatered, and then you just do it differently next time. And the other thing that, reflecting I like about it is that it keeps me connected with like the physical world. In my job, I'm often just like stuck in my mental space, and like don't pay attention to the world around me. So if it rains, I think, oh, it's raining, and what is that going to do to my tomatoes or my flowers? And, it helps me feel more connected and just to pay attention to the physical world around me, because that is also, something that impacts how we move through our lives. Um, the second thing that I'm going to share that I do is I really try to be purposeful about hanging out with people whose time I enjoy. I'll also disclose I'm not just a pediatrician, I'm a teen health specialist. And teen health specialists, we're trained to interview teenagers about what they do with their friends and their time. And we're always told when they say hanging out, don't just accept that. Find out what they're really doing. Are they doing something you need to talk to them about? But one of the big lessons for me is just the importance of just hanging out has just really been revealed in the past couple of years, in which just social interaction and just being around each other, the importance of that beyond the structured activities that we do together has really been highlighted, and has value to us individually, has value developmentally, especially for teenagers. So contrary to all my training, my new thing that I like to do and that I want to respect for and say it's absolutely okay to do is to like just be with people and just hang out. And sometimes you need to like create the space and time for that. And that's okay.
No, that's great feedback, for our students, and our families to just hang out, and that's okay to just hang out. So,
Yeah, like once you hang out in your pajamas and just like do nothing, like, gosh, that's okay.
oh, those are like my favorite weekend days. So with the kids and my husband. All right. But I want to thank you, Patricia, for your time to be with us today. And we want to thank our viewers for joining us for Waymaking. To send us additional questions and topics to discuss on the show, please visit the link on your screen. Also, please go to our YouTube playlist to find additional shows in our series. And please join us next time on MCPS Waymaking.